All right, we are in chapter 1 of James. We've only done the introduction. You can find that on my YouTube page. It will be on the church YouTube page probably this afternoon. And it will be probably a section called Ladies Bible Study, and then within that, James, I hope. I'm not sure how we'll organize it, but you'll be able to find it. The introduction is there. I'm learning this afternoon. My nephew is teaching me by phone how to also put in the below the videos to have a link where you can get the handouts. I'm learning that so that people can get the handouts if they want them. Not everyone likes handouts, but I do. I basically just choose words out of my notes and let you fill them in. I give you, in ladies' meeting, I give you almost all the notes. Last night, I give you less of my notes, but tonight, I gave you all. Today, I give them all. So we're in James chapter 1. When we did the intro, we talked about the fact that each chapter has a basic theme. The overall theme we see in James is that he's encouraging believers to be mature, to grow up in the Lord. And it said chapter 1 is those who are mature Christians are patient in testing. So this says mature Christians are patient in testing. You know, that's true in life too. The children can't take testing as much as we can. We don't feel like we're that good at it, but children are worse. They're worse at it. They're impatient. They don't want to wait. And they haven't learned that you have to sometimes. And that's immaturity. As we mature, we're able to wait. You know that even our hunger, you know why a baby cries? Their hunger is stronger than ours. They can't wait. But as they mature, they're able to wait. We could wait to eat, we just don't want to. But we could. So James 1:1-2 is going to be 1-3 actually is going to be this first section. Anyway, 1-2 I just put there. I don't know why. Anyway, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes in the dispersion, greetings. That's what we talked about in the introduction, who James is, who the people he wrote to, and what the dispersion is and why it was written. So check that out. But in this first section, we're going to go just through the first 12 verses. There are 4 imperative statements. An imperative statement is when you're telling somebody to do something. Go get me that. Stand up. Don't really. But that's an imperative statement. In English, that's what we call it. And this section has 4 imperative statements, and the words that are key in them, we're told to count, we're told to know, we're told to let, and we're told to ask. And we're going to look at these imperatives. They describe 4 essentials we need for victory in trials. When we're in a time of trial, and individually we have times of trial. Right now, I think the church and our country are in a time of trial. But sometimes it's not corporate like that, and it's just you and me. Probably within each of our own lives, we have an area where we're in trials at different times when no one else knows or no one else is going through it. But this applies to the corporate trials we go through as well as our individual trials. And these are 4 essential things we need in order to have victory during a time of trial. The first, it says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. Now that sounds like it's a weird sentence, doesn't it? Count it joy. But that's the first imperative. And what it says is we need a joyful attitude. We need a joyful attitude. Count it all joy when you meet trials of various kinds. Wow, that sounds contradictory. We're in a time of trial. Why would I count it all joy? It isn't even just saying put up with it. It's saying have a joyful attitude. Here's the reason. You know what? Outlook determines outcome. Outlook determines outcome. How we go into something will often determine how we come out of it. If we go in with joy, we're going to see with a joyful heart and the other 3 things, we can come out of even a trial with joy. But it's because we go into it with joy. Why joy? First off, God warns us in His Word. He warns us in the whole counsel of the Word of God that we should expect trials. God warns us to expect trials. Expect is your word. God warns us. Expect trials in this life. No trials in heaven. Yay. But in this life, we have trials. James says here, notice he says, count it all joy when you meet trials of various kinds. He doesn't say if. I wish he said if, because maybe we wouldn't then. But he doesn't say if, he says when. We sing a song, when I would fall, I'll stand because of you. Even when I would fall, and it will fall. It doesn't say if I fall, it says when we fall, because we know that will happen at different times. And in this case, we should expect trials. Secondly, Jesus said this in John 16:33. He says, in the world you will have tribulation. You will, he says, you will have it. Bless the Lord. But in that verse, he says, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. He's not saying, in saying he overcomes the world, he doesn't say, so you have no tribulation or trials. It's still there. It's part of being in this world. And it's part of, as we'll see, what's making us more like Christ. That's why that's the real reason we count it all joy. And Paul, in Acts 14:22, he says, through many trials we enter God's kingdom. And I think that's trials are part of God's discipline, but sometimes it isn't for anything wrong. It's just part of being in this world. And it molds us into the character of Christ. Didn't Christ go through trials? He was rejected. Ultimately, he would be beaten and scoffed, scorned, and killed. Why do we think we're different? Better somehow? Or don't need that? But it's part of who we are, how we will enter God's kingdom. So not only should we expect trials, we should not be surprised then. If we're expecting them, we shouldn't be surprised. Isn't it funny how we forget, though? I have to tell you a story on my mom. I mean, I don't have to, but I want to. So years ago, we went to visit my brother in Tennessee. And while we were there, we did some shopping. I used to get more shopping done on vacation because I had time. And I got a gift for my mom. I saw it in a store, and it was a little shelf that you put up, you know, in a decorative shelf. And I might have told some of you about it. And I saw it in this store there. It was brass. She really liked it. And she said, well, I would really like that for Christmas. Okay. She's walking on. Aren't you going to get it for me for Christmas? I said, well, Mom, you would know. No, I won't know. I'll forget. So I went and got it, and she went out to the store, and I went, and they gift wrapped it. Nice, right? Nice. So I had it in my bag, and I come out, and she goes, what'd you buy? The shelf. Oh, yeah, I forgot. So we bought a bunch of stuff. We bought some stuff for the church because they had a good price on something, so we were barely fitting everything in our suitcase. And she said, did you get everything in as we were working together, sharing the space? And I said, well, everything, you know, but this bag, and I'll just carry that on. Why? What'd you buy? The shelf. Oh, yeah. So I put it in my closet till Christmas came. And then we got the tree up, and she said, oh, we don't have any gifts. Well, I have that one gift. Really? You already have a gift? What do you have? The shelf. Oh, yeah. So I went up and got it, put it under the tree, and then we put all the gifts under. And we there's a lot of gifts at our house because I give everybody gifts and my folks give, so there's two entities giving. And so it got close to Christmas Eve when our family would be there. We like to sort them because otherwise it takes longer than it takes to get the gifts. Whose is this? Whose is this? And we get the wrong gifts, you know. And so I said, we were organizing them, and I came and I had everything organized. I had that, it was odd paper because I had my other paper. And she said, what is that? Seriously, Mom, this isn't a shelf. You should have seen how surprised she was when she opened it. She was right. She would forget. But you know what? We forget that Jesus told us, in this world you will have tribulation. And we are surprised by trials. Why is this happening to me? The shelf. We should not be surprised by various trials. Peter says it this way. He says, "Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you." We act like it's so strange. Why am I going through this? Trials come. Jesus said they would. God made sure we heard it from different sources. It's making us into who we are. We have to remember we are God's scattered people, not God's sheltered people. Sometimes we wish he would just say, we're different, and then the world would say, oh, they're all protected. We can't touch them. We're safe in his arms, but we're not sheltered from the world. We're his scattered people. Some trials come just because we're human, somewhat. Some trials come just because we're people. Everyone experiences them. Sickness, accidents, disappointments, tragedies. I think that's supposed to be a G, but that's okay. Tragedies. I always misspell that and have to go back and fix it. That's my bad word. You like this one? Yeah. The spelling isn't, subjective. Anyway, this one is. Tragedies, the things going on in our country right now. We have to experience, someone's just telling me, I can't believe God is allowing this darkness, or those who, some of us believe, really stole the election. I don't want to be deplatformed, but I'm just saying some people believe that. And how God is allowing it. Are you wondering? Why don't you stop it? And, we have to just know. And now someone said to me, you notice in the Bible, when Israel went into captivity, there was a faithful remnant, and they went into captivity too. They were being faithful. They were not sinning and having idols like the others, like Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They had to go into captivity. They had to be prisoners. They had to be not in their own nation with freedoms. And we have to realize that that's part of being human. We experience what our culture does, but we have a different attitude, a joyful attitude in spite of it. This is one day into it. Now we can decide, I'm going to be joyful anyway. I'm going to love my country. I'm going to pray for our leaders. I'm going to believe God has a purpose in even this. But we are going to go through what the rest of our nation goes through. That's because we're human, somewhat. Shine our light, because it's a very dark time. Some trials, though, come because we are Christians. This one may be a combination, actually. Satan fights us, and the world opposes us. Why shouldn't we have trials? Why should we think things are going to be hunky-dory, if you're old enough to know what that means? You all are. I don't know. Robin's pretty young. Robin's young, because her mother, I think, is my age. So. But I looked around, and I think that she's been around us long enough to know our old words. Why would we think that when Satan is fighting us all the time and the world naturally opposes us, that we wouldn't have trials? This is like 2 + 2 = 4. Satan fights us, the world opposes us, equals trials. We shouldn't be surprised, and yet we are. So maybe we're encouraged now. In our surprise, let's be joyful. Oh yeah, the shelf, I remember now. That's going to be a weird word for you now. Outlook determines outcome, as we said. Value, what we value, determines evaluation. You just have to put value with no E in the middle there. Value determines evaluation. What this means is what we value determines how we evaluate our life. How we evaluate what we're going through, how we evaluate our circumstances is based on what we value. That's how James can say, count it all joy, because he says you have a different value system. So you evaluate trials differently because of what you value. Value, the word count, when he says count it all joy, that means to evaluate how we look at it, okay? When we meet trials in life, we must evaluate them in the light of what God is doing for us. And we will see with a joyful attitude and these other things we're going to look at, that what God is doing is he's maturing us. And he's helping us to show that we're mature. Because mature Christians are patient in testing. And we don't know if we are if we don't go through testing. I would be patient if I had to do that. Then we never have to do it. And we don't know. Here's an opportunity. Count it all joy. You're having an opportunity to show your maturity or to grow more, or both. We can have joy in trials because we live for things that matter most. We live for the things that matter most. That's why even in trials and dark times, we can have a joyful attitude. If we value comfort greater than character, you see that sign like that for you non-math people? That's a greater than sign. You know, I used to be so confused in elementary school. Which one's less than and which one's greater than? You want to know the secret? It always points to the lower one. The arrow points to the lesser. If we think comfort is of more importance than character, then trials will upset us. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. But you're getting your character developed. So Paul says, count it all joy. Your value isn't more on comfort than character. It shouldn't be anyway. Because God cares more about our character than he does about our comfort. And he does, by the way, for your loved ones. It may take trials. It may take hard times for them to come back to the Lord. That's why Virginia says, pray that through this hard time, my siblings come back to Jesus and my dad, where they need to be. We prayed that for the Johnsons. Pray it for all those who have lost that this trial. Because why? Because God cares more about our character than our comfort. But if you value comfort more than character, trials will upset you. If we value the physical, the world we see, more than the spiritual world, we can't have joy in trials because I'm uncomfortable. The physical world, it needs to be good here. But the spiritual is far more important. We have to value it. No, those are if. I've got them back. You say, well, you're pointing to the more important one. I'm showing you if you have this, you won't. Okay? If we value the present more than the future, including eternity, then we become bitter, not better. Yeah. In trials, if we value now, we get mad about how things are. But if we value what God will do, what God is doing in our individual lives, and eternity, then we'll let trials make us not bitter, but better. And not butter. That would be nice. It's a nice rhyming word, right? It's harder to work butter in. Except in everything we cook, right? Okay, so value determines evaluation. So to see if we're mature, we have to see, what do I really value? Because that will help determine if I can count it all joy when I face various trials. Next thing, to end with joy, we must begin with joy. You know, people who come with joy out of a trial is because when they went into the trial, they had a joyful attitude. You want to come out of a trial with joy, go into it with joy. Joy in, joy out. To end with joy, we must begin with joy. We need to look at trials through eyes of faith. Faith that God is working anyway, that God knows the end from the beginning, that God can be trusted. He can be trusted even in this hard time. When trials come, immediately give thanks. That's how we'll start counting it all joy. and adopt a joyful attitude. That's what we need to do. But how do we do that? How now? I know I should. You just told us how we should, but how do we do it? Turn your paper over. That isn't how you do it. You don't turn your paper over. Because, that's like the one who, what they put on the paper? How do you keep an idiot entertained? Turn this over. How do you keep an idiot entertained? Turn this over. Yeah. Now you even got that online. Look at that. All right. So if we're going to start with joy, we need help. We can't just say, okay, I'll just be joy. Be thankful. Be joyful. Be joy. That would be your daughter. She's being joy, right? Isn't her name Joy? There you go. Be joyful. The second thing we need that goes with this joyful attitude and that will help us have a joyful attitude is an understanding mind. An understanding mind. Let me read the whole combination of 2 and 3 because they flow right together. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Steadfastness is not only a large word, long word, but it's a grown-up word. It's adults who should be more steadfast than children. And we'll see that it's a sign of maturity. When we have an understanding mind, what we know as believers makes trials easier to face. You see, it's that knowledge, that understanding mind. I can count it all joy because I understand. I have an understanding mind. I will know this. Faith is always tested. Faith is always tested. Now understand, there's a difference in how God tests and how Satan tempts. Okay? God tests us to bring out the best. To bring out the best so we see, look at, you withstood that temptation or you passed that test. You trusted me, you had a joyful attitude, you had a good understanding so you could be joyful. The testing of our faith proves that we are born again. The world, who are not God's, they don't get tested. They may get tempted, but they don't get a test that comes from God because that's for his people. So the testing of our faith shows we are his. Right? But Satan tempts to bring out the worst. God tests to bring out the best. When I am tested, I will come through it like gold. Gold that is tested, which we'll look more at in just a few minutes. Or next week or tomorrow. Or yes, it's coming up very soon. I know I studied it. Well, God is testing us to show that we are gold and approved by God. While Satan tempts us to get us to show how bad we are. He wants to bring out the worst in us. And we want to stand against him because we want the best in us to be what shines instead of the worst in us. So we can do that. So we need to know that testing, faith is always tested. Secondly, testing works for us, not against us. If we are not following what James says and counting it all joy when we fall or meet trials, if we are not counting it all joy, we can start saying this trial is trying to destroy me. No, the trials that God allows, testing works for us, not against us. I like in this new song we just recently learned, I am who God says I am. I am who you say I am. In the bridge, which you don't know, but the one section of it, musically it's called a bridge. It says, I am chosen, not forsaken. You are for me, not against me. God is for us, not against me, not against us. He's for us. So trials, we can joy in trials because God is for us. He's doing a work because of that trial. Through that trial, he's working in our lives because he's for us. If God is for me, who can be against me? That's a kid's song. You were at camp that year. Yeah. I like that song. If God is for me, who can be against me? He's for us, not against us. And we can trust him. Testing can be translated as approval. Listen to this verse from 1 Peter 1:7. So that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. He's saying that you're tested is to say your faith is approved, genuine. Get a mark, genuine. That's genuine faith. Because you went through the trial and you had counted all joy, you had an understanding mind, and the other two things we'll talk about. Approved. That's a great thing we want from God, isn't it? Well done, good and faithful servant. Approved. That isn't just for when we enter into glory. Many have said that about my dad in our notes. We know that he heard, well done, good and faithful servant. But it's for us now, as we continue to live for Jesus, as we go through trials, while we're in a testing time, we can count it all joy because it's bringing us to the point of approved. You showed your faith is genuine. Isn't that good? Count it all joy because you know. A gold prospector brings in a sample. You see this in movies. Probably some of you experienced in life, but I'm not saying who. Really not, I don't think so. But actually, my cousin's husband used to pan for gold. And just as a hobby, she would go antiquing to spend the gold, I guess. And he would go panning for gold. They still have some. Because small amounts of gold nowadays that they didn't used to bother to take are worth so much. Anyway, a gold prospector would take a small amount. When they found a vein, or they thought on their claim, they would go and take a small amount of it, not all of it, because why do they want to invest everything? All their energy and all their time. They take this small amount. They go down to the claims office or the assayer's office, and they have him weigh it or assess it. And they look at it, they test it, they weigh it. It isn't worth much. However, what its value is, because it's a small amount, the value is when he says, real gold. Then the guy goes, oh, I know where it is. And now I'm going to go invest myself in it and get more because this was approved. This is gold. And when he gets that approval, it's priceless because now he knows he has a gold mine, literally in that case. It assures the prospector that the gold is genuine. God's approval of our faith by testing is priceless because it assures us that our faith is genuine. No wonder we can count it all joy when we understand that. Ooh, I'm in a time to see if my faith is genuine. I think we as a church, we as a country, we as a church nationwide are now in a time when God is going to give us an opportunity to come through and say, genuine, real faith. And those who don't have it will fall off, or they'll compromise, or they'll hide. You know, somebody, and I think it's one way to handle things, they said, I've canceled all my social media accounts to protest against the censorship of conservatives. And I said, well, that's one way to handle it. But if I did that, I hardly ever use my Facebook except to go on the church Facebook page so I can interact with people. I'm there on Sundays. You see me over here, I'm not so addicted to my computer that I have to have it in church. I'm the person assigned to interact with people online. That's why I sit there with my computer while they're online. And some of you were there being interacted with while I was doing that. But if I canceled my accounts, I wouldn't be able to do that because with Facebook, you have to have the account to get on. And so what I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep posting. I'm going to let them until they shut us down. I think as a church, that's what we're doing with meeting, but also with our social media connections, until they shut us down. Yes, they've been very convenient, and it may get more difficult to do it, although Parler is supposed to come back and Parler is open. But it's not as well known or popular. I'm on Parler too, but I say for me, and it's an individual decision, for me, keep posting till they shut me down. Because, and if you like somebody, if you like something that's godly like that, if you like something, it forces it to go to a bunch of people, and they can't stop it until they deplatform you. The more you push the like on people, or not, you can't do more than one per video, but if you like it, it's broadcasting it out to all the people connected with you. And that's good. So I'm personally just going to stay at it. I'm going to keep posting the Bible studies and whatever we can until they shut us down. But we're going to come through. We are. And let's come through knowing we're going to get approved. Amen? Amen? That's why we can count it all joy, even while we start. Now I'm going to stop there because y'all are going to be here next week anyway, right? So take that with you. If you don't, we'll have you another one. But I could rush through it, but I think there's some good stuff there. And so we'll look at that more next week and continue through the first 12 verses. My mom said, are you doing James like you did Mark? Are you going to do one chapter a week? I said, I don't think so. You notice on this page there were none of the arrows. And I thought, I don't have any lesson arrows. That's because James is all lessons. I use the arrows when I'm doing narratives or historical things or stories, so we get our applied truths out of them. These are the applied truths. So I probably won't have so many of those arrows because everything in here is an application applied to our lives, right? What?
Arrows at the top.
The arrow at the top. I didn't have an arrow at the top. Oh, put the whole thing, this whole thing, that's it. Yeah, then this would be the stuff I would use to make the point of the other things, so it's here already. Let's close in prayer. Lord, I thank you. I thank you for the trial we're in right now. Lord, we want to count it joy. We rejoice because you are allowing us to show that we have genuine faith. Lord, help us. Help us not only to shine our light with our attitude of goodness and doing what you want and living godly lives, but by being joyful, we will be different than people around us. It's not only evil that's prevailing, it's a somber, sad fear that it's overriding and they're using to get people to do what they want them to do. Lord, help us to be joyful, to be set apart and different because of our joy. As we count it all joy, knowing you are showing the genuineness of our faith. So help us, Lord, to get your approved sign, your approved stamp, and to seek that as whatever we encounter. In Jesus' name, amen.